Stuart, taxation for non-EU nationals, discuss.
Yes, Tracy, we're already having customers reach out about it, and I'm going to give you my take, which will be contrary to many people's take. People think it's discriminatory, it will never come to pass, but I think it might. If you think taxes aren't going up, then you live in cloud cuckoo land. And what they've done is by design. So of course we all know the reasons behind this. Pedro Sanchez wants to get re-elected. How do you appeal to the masses with a socialist mindset? You talk about taxing foreigners, okay? But they've elected to tax people who are outside the EU. And that's 3% of the 700,000 buyers that bought last year. So it's a small minority. Why do you attack a small minority? Because you know it has no impact on the actual housing market, okay? So outwardly, it looks like they're really tackling it, but actually they can't attack the housing market because they've learned their lesson from the 2008 crisis. If you attack the housing market and property prices decrease, as an ex-banker, you know the collateral for all mortgages decreases and you have debt underwater, okay? Which means that the actual property is not worth what you've lent out to it. So they can't have a housing collapse. So I think property prices maintain. The other thing you need to clarify is he talks about 100% taxation. I believe it's 100% of the taxable base. So if you buy a property for $500,000, the actual taxable base will be increased to $1 million. So you'll pay 7% transfer tax on $1 million. So effectively paying 14% now. So that's what I think will actually come to pass. And I don't think it's going to pass anytime soon, but you can expect it maybe end of next year. Similar to the Golden Visa, it was done to create sensationalism and they actually went through with it in April this year. So if you're outside the EU, you can't buy a property for $500,000 and get residency, okay? So this is what comes to pass because as you know, I always speak about it, government's in debt, they need to raise more revenue, GDP is in decline, birth rate's in decline, older generation, so they're not contributing anymore because they're out of work or retired, so they need to find these avenues, and taxation is an avenue governments always use. Okay, so I expect a new normal where people buying here outside the EU have to run their numbers. Is it still worth to buy a property in Spain where you're paying 14% transfer tax? Okay, and with the lifestyle, the weather and all the security and safety and cost of living, I think it still makes sense for a lot of people. Okay, so that's what I think will happen. To actually affect the housing crisis, I believe they're going to go really strong on short-term rentals. We're seeing it, 66,000 properties pulled from Airbnb. It's difficult to get an Andalusia tourist license. You have to get community buy-in, 3/5 in favor. Fortunately, you'll know this if you speak to your lawyer, you have a constitutional right to summer rentals, so July and August, as well as mid to long-term rentals, okay? The only thing that you'll miss is the Andalusia tourist license, but that's worst case scenario because I think a lot of the communities here know that holiday home owners do need to subsidize the running costs of these homes, so a lot of these communities will actually vote in favor. You just have to wait to the AGM. But the real way to solve this housing crisis, I think, will come through mortgages. I believe they'll increase the terms from 30 years to 40 years, perhaps even 50 years, so that the actual monthly cost of your mortgage is much cheaper and more affordable. But you'll be in a mortgage for most of your life. So it's not like the boomer generation where they could perhaps pay off their mortgage in 20, 30 years. You'll have a property with a mortgage always. And when you sell to buy a new property, you'll have a new long-term mortgage. I do believe they'll also look at things like first-time buyer relief for transfer tax and things like that. So this is my opinion. Things come, taxation comes. Unfortunately, we're in a world where property prices will continue to increase, and yeah, we will actually have a demand shock, I believe, at the end of this year, where people want to front run this new legislation, and then it'll be business as normal into 2026 and beyond. That's my take.
Wow,